Hey everybody, this is Fragger here to do 35 through 39 of N+. This is when things are getting a lot more tricky, but Subsidiary Reactor really isn't going to be showing that off. The whole purpose of this level here is just to collect gold. That's it. Everything else along the way is very minor enemies. These chasers here really don't pose a threat as long as you don't, land on the platforms, and you're really not going to have to. There's no danger from them. Just not controlling your jumps and your slides are going to be the death of you. And by now, you should know exactly how to do that. I mean, you've kind of been through hell when it comes to controlling your jumps. So, there you go. You're done with this. Now, Neuroscan is a pretty neat level. It brings back some more drone action, and, I like me some drones. Not the other numerous names I've called them. They're called drones. But it's kind of neat and fairly quick and just challenging enough, and I like it. And close call. That's going to be a bit of a theme with this video. Lots of close calls. Might be why I named it this. Now, it's not a maze. Oh wait, it is in fact a very difficult level. Pretty much all you have to do is keep an eye on that chaser. Most of these jumps here are pretty easy as long as you control your air time. I was kind of jumping towards there and then just controlling my landing so I'd land on the platform. You do it enough times, it becomes second nature. They're all pretty much the same jump, in fact, just back and forth. And the only ones that are different here are on the very top. Now, this is when the chaser is going to start becoming a bastard. The whole purpose of this is to get to the door either before the chaser or after the chaser. Depending on how quickly you do this, you can beat him there, but the odds of that happening are pretty low, because the way back is actually fairly tricky. You have to be really good at the game to be able to pull off some of these jumps, mainly because you either have to use the top level to fling you into the next platform while avoiding the mines and avoiding the downward slant, which is going to really screw with your jumps, because if you hit that platform at the wrong speed, it's going to fling you into mines and you're going to be dead. Because there's quite a few times when I was doing these jumps where I would go a little fast, hit that thing, skip, hit the flat platform with a fraction of a second and try to jump, completely miss it, hit a mine. Happened way too often. And since you have to wait for the chaser to pop out, it's going to eat up a lot of your time too. So, there's that level. Super Buck Jazz is a pretty easy level. It's got a little bit of a tricky jump at the end, and other than that, this is kind of blah. I mean, this is the only tricky part, is doing this jump here. You either land on that platform, go on the upper level, dodge the drone, but I elected for the more stylish path. And then just follow it out. Go in between the two platforms, almost a dead center, and you'll get the door. That's it. Like the circles in your mind and the windmills. Jesus Christ, the name of this level is confusing. This is a really fun level. This is in fact one of my favorite levels of the game. This is a straight up final exam on this is how you deal with missiles. If you don't know how to deal with them by now, you will learn how to deal with missiles by the end of this level, because you have to. Very tight corridors. You have to learn exactly when to jump from missiles, which is right as they fire. You kind of cheese them a little bit so they hit walls. And this is going to be a skill that you're going to need for the rest of the game, and this is when it teaches it to you, which is a good thing because you're going to need it. So that's it for the first episode. Episode 2 begins now with Hunted Macro. Now we have these chasing drones? I don't know what they're called, hunters maybe? Very easy level, tons of gold on the top if you want to grab it. You don't really need it for this episode, but if you want it, you want it. Trucker is a pretty easy level. There's a few little parts in here that make it a little more difficult than it should be, but that's kind of the way it goes. Mainly it has to do with these downward and upward paths, having the mines not attached to the wall, which makes it a little difficult, and the fact that all this gold is guarded by a sniper with a bunch of mines around it, but that's not too trivial. The most difficult thing here is this drone at the bottom. If you hit it around the same time I did, and whoa, close call, you're going to be like flung right into it. So you gotta control that, or zoom out. Either one. And that's kind of it. The rest of the level's gonna blah. So let's go. And that does it. Let's move on. Wavering is actually a fairly tricky level. It mainly has to do with the fact that you kind of want to ignore the left and right sides. I mean, once again, if you want to get gold, you want to get gold, but it's a greed trap, really. You don't really need it for this episode. But the main thing you want to keep an eye on is the upward and downwards one, and when they cross is a good indication on when it's time to do things. Like, I could have gone there, but I decided not to, but I'm going to go now, because when they're crossing, it creates a giant gap on the top and the bottom. And once they, move apart, giant gap in the middle, so that's how it goes with wavering. But neat little kind of puzzle to solve. Memories of Kobe is once again a greed trap. There's tons of gold, and you kind of feel like you need to kind of go around in a circle to dodge all these drones and whatnot, but all you gotta do is this. Really easy, and then you're done. This one, on the other hand, Plu, you gotta do this first, then double back, because the way that all the buttons are laid out is the fact that you kind of have to take this path, mainly because you're going to be hitting a lot of these buttons. Not this one, that's of course the door button. This button here, and another close call. They open up the exit door and the door to the final button for the exit door, and you're going to need to do them almost in that order, or else you're kind of just wasting your time. So it's just kind of weird that you have to go left, then go right, which is something this game usually doesn't make you do. Unless it makes you go all the way left, then all the way right, then all the way left, then all the way right. You Might Be on B Squad is a fairly easy level. It's just air control and jumping at the right time or air control. Some nice gold here. You don't really need a ton of gold in this episode, but, whatevs. Quixotic, once again, really easy. It's going to be the kind of a theme for this episode. Don't know why. We have a really easy episode right here in the middle, and we're already done. Bam. Alignment's pretty easy. All you got to do is kind of this. I mean, if you want to grab all the gold, you can. But once again, I feel like this is kind of a greed trap, because the longer things go on, the harder it is to get all that gold. So might as well just say screw it and move on to you better stay away, because this level is a very long title. This is another kind of greed trap. There's a lot of gold in here, and you only really need a little bit of it to help you dodge this missile, because you just want to make sure that the missile there explodes so you have enough time to make it to this jump. And that's the end of that level. And now, sideways elevators. I really like this level. Now, if I remember correctly, these things are called thwomps. Now, when you jump on them, you don't move with them. You either have to run along with it or kind of hop. I gotta do both, because the thing is, you move faster than they do, which is what makes it really difficult. So you have to either stutter your steps or you have to jump. And this creates some pretty hairy instances, because you may notice they're making each of these areas a little harder. Now, it's a little subtle, but they actually make each section a little thinner, so you can't jump as high each time. And of course, they add more mines too. And I kind of like this. This is something I wasn't expecting, and that was close, and we're gonna be almost done here. Now, this part here took me a little while to crack. What you kind of want to do is you want to make sure that you land on the thwomp when you're close to the button, and you'll see what I do here is I jump, and then I run through the button, because if you hop on the button, you're going to kind of land right on top of that mine right after that. And that was an obstacle that unfortunately took me a little too long to figure out when I was playing it, but whatever. That's the end of this level, one of my favorites of the entire game. Now we're moving on to this episode. Oh boy, fracas. Now, this is an episode where you should collect a bit of gold. Problem is, a lot of this level, you don't really get that impression. I kind of take a little bit too much time here for, reasons. I don't know. But there's a bit of gold here, not too much to take care of. As long as you're in the 80s in this section, you're kind of okay. Here, a hail of gunfire. You think you might want to zoom out because there's a gun turret there on the bottom that you can't see. But I always just judged it by sound. That as soon as it's firing, I know that as soon as you hear it spin up, it's firing at where you just were. So as long as you're continuously moving, you're okay. And that button at the very beginning is what makes that platform there appear. So you want to go right at the beginning. And then pretty much from there on out, as long as you're paying attention to when the gun is firing, you're okay. Seeing the gun turret doesn't exactly help with just hearing it. Once again, ending at around 80 is kind of where you want to be. Concentric is kind of where they throw quite a bit of gold at you. Maybe I was wrong with this level. This episode, I mean. But you can kind of go around it, grab the button on the right-hand side, then hit the button. I just do it this way for one very specific reason. when you're falling down, you can actually hit that platform on the bottom pretty easily. And, whoa, close, and you can actually use that to help your momentum to propel you to the end of the level. Exit strategy is an interesting level. That pit with the button, yeah, that's a little tricky, because the missile turret can see you, and it will also see you on the way out, because odds are you're going to make the missile explode when you're getting out. So grabbing this gold and doing it this way is kind of the best way to go, and then use the top to jump onto the door. Now, this is the level while you want to have a fair amount of gold. Thwarthog, if you're not used to this type of a level, this one will take a while. Mainly because it's filled with chasers, not a ton of gold, and you kind of need to know the pattern in which to get it. Because how you deal with the chasers, of course, depends on if you're running away from them or running towards them. Or, you know, you're just stepping on the platform for a second and jumping over them. Either way. And that's kind of it for this kind of a level, is that this kind of makes you really know what you're doing with chasers. And I don't do that button because I wanted to make sure that the chasers were in the correct position on the way out. Kind of see what I'm talking about here. It's kind of eating up our time here a bit. I mean, ending in the 50s would be good, but we're not ending in the 50s. And now that we're done, we can get the way out, which is kind of nice, the fact that the exit button is right there. Could be a lot worse. Could be on the very bottom or something. And we're done with this episode. Let's on to the next one, where things get very hard. Welcome to 39. Onomatopoeia, or whatever that's called, you want to collect most of this gold. I don't, and I kind of pay for it. I kind of blaze through this level really quickly, but you're going to want to collect a lot of the gold because of the next level. Welcome to Crawling Walls. This is exactly the kind of level that I do not like. It is a go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth level to the nth degree. In fact, this is probably the worst of the going back and forths in this game. Now, the main strategy you kind of want to employ is to kind of keep an eye on the chasers on the opposite sections so that they're not entering the area you're about to go to, and I'm ignoring that as I'm doing this because I'm trying to go through this thing as quickly as possible, because as you may notice, there's not a lot of gold in here. And I also make some very simple mistakes while I'm playing it. That's what makes this level very difficult. I mean, other than the fact that you're crawling up walls that are filled with slants, so it's very difficult to climb. Pretty much you want to keep an eye on where all of the drones are so that you're not going to jump into a goddamn swarm of them, which can happen if you unlock these things a tad bit too quickly. Or a little too late, because they can all go into one area and then you're just dealing with a mass of them. Right now they're fairly spread out, which is kind of what you want. And you know, if I could make this jump here, that'd be fantastic. But in the end, you're just dealing with, I feel like, a level that is just difficult because they felt like making it somewhat difficult. I mean, I just don't like this. I mean, if you started off on the left and worked all your way to the right in one move, it'd be a shorter level, but they could make it a lot more challenging and more fun than going back and forth, and it makes this a long goddamn level, and one mistake and you're screwed, which just isn't fun. And we can finally go to the door, and you can see our time is just bleeding, and wow, closeness there. I completely screwed that jump up, but somehow the game let me walk away. And I also screwed that up. This point, I usually kill myself and then start over, but here, this level took me forever to get through, so I'm like, yeah, I've got it. It also make it more interesting, showing you just how desperate you can get when you're really low on time, because we're going to be really low on time. You can see that right now. I'm also trying to time it so I can grab that gold piece, then I kind of screw up the fall. I'm like, oh, god damn it, and just go to the end. So now we only have 20 seconds to get through the next 3 levels. Fun. So yeah, this one here is a very simple level, but since we're low on time, we have to hit all these gold caches. The gold here is just enough so where it doesn't, you kind of end on a positive doing so. You can see here we just passed where we were when we started the level. And that's always a good thing. If you start the next level, if you end the level with what you started with in time, then you're doing pretty good. And we're actually going to end here with a positive 3 seconds, which is good. because this level here is fairly difficult. Unadulterated A, if you don't take it quickly, you'll bleed a lot of time, and we don't really have that. So I have to play this very quick, using my knowledge of the missiles to my advantage, and being able to just grab a fair amount of gold in the way out. And you can see now, we're now no longer in jeopardy here, running out of time, so I can play it a little bit safer now. Except for this. And that worked. Let's get to the exit door. Now let's do the last level of this video, Advanced Robotics. This is a fairly interesting level. I actually really like this one. This is one where you have to do very specific jumps, like don't get that gold or you'll be thrown into mines, like that kind of shit. And if you do this final jump here a little too early or a little too late, you'll be thrust right into a drone. Or you can get incredibly lucky, miss a few jumps, but somehow be incredibly close to this drone and somehow walk away from it. As I said, close calls. So that's going to do it for this video. I'll see you guys next time for when we cover 40 through 45, when things really do get a lot more difficult. See you guys there.